Hello everyone, my name's Aloubell and welcome to part 18 of Miraculous Bonds Beyond Fate, my Miraculous Ladybug AU with a different origin story and different other things too. If this video is your first exposure to Bonds Beyond Fate, then please check out the story from the beginning. Return for part 18 when you are ready. For everyone else, sit back, relax, hit that like button for the algorithm, subscribe for more reviews, rants, and rewrites, and if you want to support me even further, you can become a channel member by clicking the join button. Not only will you get cool perks, but you'll be helping me towards my dream of a creative career. A full-time job in this means more videos for all of you. No pressure though, I still like making videos regardless. Anyway, put the shushing emoji in the comments and enjoy Miraculous Bonds Beyond Fate Part 18. Last time on Bonds Beyond Fate, Miss Bustier took Alya and Chloe aside to settle the right consequences for their earlier actions. When Alya went off to get cleaned up, the teacher and Chloe had a heart-to-heart, during which Miss Bustier learned more about Chloe's current mindset and getting a taste of the trauma she had been through. It was revealed that Chloe is secretly a genius, but hides the fact from the general public for her own personal reasons. Eventually, the two came to an agreement on what Chloe's punishment should be, while Chloe herself took comfort in the fact that her teacher truly cares about her. And now the story continues. Alya, wearing her gym class outfit, stood outside the door of her classroom, holding an ice pack on her own bruised cheek. Her hair and skin were finally refreshed, only well enough, after Chloe's cruel prank. One could not thoroughly get dough out of one's hair in such a small amount of time, but with her fate still uncertain, she had to rush through the cleaning process just so that she could at least feel less gross. But never mind that. Never mind the ache on the side of her face. Never mind that her and her friend's lunchtime had been taken away because of this drama. Those were inconveniences, but none could emotionally stack up to Chloe's threat to get Alya's mom fired. What an awful thing to even consider. Chloe was petty, but she'd stoop that low? Why had things gotten so bad? It wasn't always this way. And now, even Alya's freedoms and responsibilities to save the free world were at risk because she had to deal with Chloe's lack of chill. That girl was a menace and she deserved punishment. There was no justification for what she had done. So why did Alya's heart ache? There were voices on the other side of the door. It was Miss Bustier and Chloe. How long was Alya standing there? Long enough to realize she was clenching her fists and her hands were cramping up. Long enough to not even notice that trails of tears were drying on her cheeks. The voices kept going as the conversation seemed like it was coming to a close. How long had she been standing there? Remembering that she wasn't supposed to be gone that long, while also attempting to avoid any awkwardness, Alya wiped her face with her hands, took a deep breath, and opened the door. Chloe's face was slightly flushed as she stood a few feet away from their teacher. Her hands were behind her back as she awkwardly avoided making eye contact with Alya. Miss Bustier looked considerably more relaxed and even had a small smile. Alya put on a confused expression as she dropped the ice pack from her face for the moment. "Did I interrupt something?" "Not at all," Miss Bustier replied. Chloe narrowed her eyes at Alya as she folded her arms. "Took your sweet time, didn't you? I'm sure you did exactly what Miss Bustier said not to do and went to talk to your loser friends. Admit it. Or maybe it's just hard to clean wet dough out of your hair. In a sink. Did you consider that?" Alya retorted. Giving a devilish grin, Chloe's eyes darted away. "Yeah, that does seem like a bit of a nightmare. Sorry you had to go through that." Her tone sounded sarcastic, but Alya was uncertain. Alya's frown deepened as she looked on at her rival with skepticism. "Is this you admitting that you did this?" Chloe chuckled. "Well, She quickly cut off her speech as she glanced over at Miss Bustier, who raised her brows in expectation. Rolling her eyes, Chloe gave an annoyed sigh. "If I were to hypothetically admit that I did do this exceptionally hilarious act, all I would add is that I had no intentions of getting you involved. If you weren't so darn close to Losernet, you wouldn't have gotten caught in the crossfire. It doesn't matter if I was involved or not. What you did wasn't right, Chloe. Avoiding Alya's gaze, Chloe quietly scoffed. Whatever. I'm done here. The rich girl began to make her way to the classroom exit. Miss Bustier called out to her, Chloe. The girl stopped in her tracks but didn't turn around to face her teacher. I'm going to inform Mr. Damocles about our agreement. So go wait in the proper area, all right? Yeah, okay. But before Chloe took another step, Alya had one more thing to say. I'm sorry, Chloe. The blonde girl gasped. Her large blue eyes widened in surprise, mouth agape. Miss Bustier also gasped, but her shock fell into a proud smile. Taking a silent gulp, Chloe closed her eyes tight, trying to hold back some very strong emotions, before opening them back up and putting on a more neutral expression. Why are you apologizing? Chloe asked. I shouldn't have hit you. I mean, you had it coming, and it honestly felt kind of cathartic for a second there. Chloe growled. I thought this was an apology. It is, and I eventually decided that I didn't like hitting you. Telling you off would have been more than enough. But more than that, I just wanted you to know that I didn't just slap you to save Marinette. I did it to save someone else as well. Expression softening even more, Miss Bustier let out a gentle, "Aw." Chloe's frown, however, went crooked in confusion. What's that supposed to mean? I wasn't going after anyone else. Alya sighed. I'm not gonna spell it out for you, bourgeois. Figure it out yourself. Giving an aggressive huff through her nostrils, Chloe said, Weirdo, and then exited the room, closing the door behind her. After a few moments had gone by, Miss Bustier addressed her student. That was very big of you, Alya. I know apologizing to someone you don't get along with isn't easy. You can say that again, Alya shrugged in exasperation. Would have been nice to get an apology back, you know. She'll get there, Bustier assured. Yeah? What makes you so sure? Bustier winked at Alya and put a finger up to her own lips as if telling a secret. I have a superpower where I can see into the future. Alya giggled with skepticism. With all due respect, Miss Bustier, if you had that power, you wouldn't be a teacher. You don't think so? How come? If you could see into the future, then you'd know which students would pass and which ones would fail, so you might not even see a point in teaching them. Au contraire, Alya. It is because I can see into the future that I know who needs more help than others and in what areas. Regardless of the future, someone has to teach you kids, or else no one would pass anything. And besides, I believe that the future is malleable and that we have the power at this very moment to change it. The exciting part about being a teacher is seeing your students progress in the present and having hope for their bright futures. Bustier cheerfully smiled at Alya. Appreciating the thought, Alya chuckled nervously. Just to be clear, you can't actually see into the future, right? She immediately perked up with stars in her eyes upon thinking of the possibilities. Unless... No, I was just messing with you. Alya playfully pouted. Darn. After a few moments of silence between them, Alya's mood gloomed a bit. So, am I in trouble? Making her tone a little more appropriately serious, Bustier replied, You slapped your classmate. What do you think? Does the reasoning matter at all? It depends. Were you or your friends in immediate danger? We theoretically could have been. You heard how unhinged Chloe sounded in that video. Alya became more worked up as her volume increased. None of us knew what she was about to do. You read her file. You know what she's capable of. Immediately knowing she messed up, Alya slapped her hands over her mouth to silence herself. Keeping her cool, and while somehow not being all that surprised, Bustier spoke up. So, you were listening in on our conversation? Alya's face reddened. I didn't mean to. I'm sorry. I know that wasn't cool, but I don't know why. It doesn't matter. Chloe has assaulted Marinette before. when we were kids, and it didn't only happen once. Chloe had to be taken away because of how violent she was. Do you know how scary that was for Marinette? She needed her own therapy back then just to deal with that anxiety. I understand you're just trying to be a good friend, Alya, but... And then there's the stuff that the files don't tell you. Alya cut her teacher off. Chloe has mellowed out since we came to this school and as she got older, but she found more subtle ways to mess with Marinette in order to avoid getting into trouble. Last year was a mess whenever the two crossed paths. Attempts to trip Marinette, pretending it was an accident, gum stuck in Marinette's hair after accidentally bumping into Chloe, some mysterious box from nowhere filled with spiders. That was fun. Couldn't prove it was Chloe, but of course it was. Other things happened too. Thank goodness they were in separate classes, or else things could have been so much worse. And I can only suspect that things were better this year because Adrian was around and she wanted to impress him. Those files can only tell you so much, Miss Bustier, but I know Chloe. Things could have gotten really, really bad. Waiting a few seconds to see if her student was done talking, Bustier replied, I appreciate your perspective on things, Alya, and your insights are definitely useful. I now have a better picture of how things have been going between you three. Would I be correct to assume that you and Chloe used to be friends? Alya blinked in surprise. Oh, she bashfully looked away. With sympathy on her face, Bustier added, Look, I won't pretend like I understand the complexity of the situation. Given what you told me, what's in your files, some extraneous factors, and even what you overheard between myself and Chloe, I know it's a lot. It's so much. You kids honestly shouldn't have to go through all of this. And I'm sorry for how big of a mess this all is. But one wrong on top of a whole bunch of other wrongs doesn't make a right. You shouldn't have hit her because of the possibility that something might happen. You know this. I know you know this, Alya. Energy depleting, Alya confirmed. Yeah, I know. And I'm sorry, again. But please, she begged, please don't suspend me. Please do not tell my parents about this. Alya, please, it's not like I don't deserve punishment. I know I do, and I'll take it, but I can't. Not right now. If my parents find out, they'll ground me even longer than with the last incident. And I can't afford to be grounded. Not when Her voice trailed off. Yes, Alya? What reason could you possibly have for why I shouldn't tell your parents about this? I'm all ears. Alya searched her thoughts very carefully. It was a deeply sensitive situation, and she had to approach it with the utmost respect and finesse in order for this to possibly go her way. I have a secret job. Bustier crossed her arms as she waited for the explanation. Uh-huh. And the job is a surprise. Or rather, it has a surprise outcome. Uh-huh. So, if I'm grounded, I can't do my job. And this job just hired a random 14-year-old without her parents' permission? Okay. I know that sounds suspicious, but I'm telling the truth. Unconvinced, Bustier cocked an eyebrow and lightly puckered her lips. And I know saying that doesn't actually guarantee that I'm telling the truth. Alya's shoulders slumped. I don't know what else to say. Observing Alya's sense of hopelessness, Bustier frowned as she felt bad for the poor girl. She sighed. Walking towards the door, the teacher opened it up and peered outside of it, cautiously looking for something. Alya watched her in confusion. Miss Bustier? What's wrong? Just making sure no one is around. I wouldn't want another eavesdropping incident. She then straightened up and gently closed the door to the classroom. Rejoining Alya, she calmly said, I know you're a superhero, Alya. For a moment, the world around the teen girl seemed to stop as she was reeling from the whiplash of this accusation. She had to be very careful about what she said next. Alya chuckled nervously but kept her tone confident. Oh, I get it. First you have the superpower to see into the future, and now I'm super as well. Let me guess. This is some metaphor that teachers use to make their students feel special. Like, I'll bounce back from this whole experience because I'm so awesome. You are awesome, Alya, that's for sure. But no, this isn't a metaphor. I know you're a superhero. You're that fox hero, right? Rena Rouge? Alya, starting to sweat at this point, brought the ice pack she was holding back up to her cheek as she mentally flipped out, wondering where she went wrong. Haha, very funny. How would I even be a fox superhero when I'm completely human? Alya, I was there that night when you chased after Ladybug. Realizing how sunk she was, Alya's usually confident and calm demeanor began to shrink until she felt like nothing more than a small child who got caught doing something wrong. I was out running some errands when I was on a quieter street than usual. I saw you calling out for Ladybug, who was swinging by. You chased after her, and I was concerned for your safety, especially after the incident with the Akuma attack near our school and how you and Nino got involved. So, I followed you, and, long story short, I know that Marinette is Ladybug and that you are Rena Rouge. And if I had to guess, either Nino or Adrian is Cat Noir. Alya covered her face with her hands as she contemplated everything. After taking a deep inhale and letting out an exaggerated exhale, she asked, "Is there any possibility that I could convince you that you dreamed all of that up?" Miss Bustier shook her head. "Nope. Sorry." Dropping her arms to her sides in defeat, Alya unzipped her fanny pack around her waist and said, "Might as well come out." Nothing happened. "You heard her, Trix. The jig is up." And with that, the tiny fox-like creature levitated out of his hiding spot and made himself known. "Hello!" Miss Bustier perked up in surprise upon seeing him. "Oh my, I think I remember seeing you as well." Alya gestured to both of them towards each other. "Trix, Miss Bustier. Miss Bustier, Trix." "Well, hello there, Trix. It's nice to meet you." Miss Bustier smiled as she held up her index finger to the small creature. Trix politely placed his hands on her finger pad in a greeting. "Likewise," Trix said. "I gotta say, I liked the little bit of foreshadowing earlier with the joke of your own superpowers. It was kind of poetic, and I appreciate that." "You're way too calm about this," Alya told him. "It's not the ideal situation, but what's done is done. And if someone is going to find out, at least it's someone nice, fair, and trustworthy. From what I can tell anyway. Besides, what's life without a little chaos, you know?" Alya face-palmed with the hand not holding the ice pack. This wasn't the plan. How did I mess up so badly? Of everyone who was going to make such a slip-up, I didn't think it would be me. She groaned. I was so careless and excited that night. I should have paid more attention to my surroundings. If it's any consolation, I was keeping myself hidden and silent, Bustier admitted. Part of me wanted to get you out of there, but the other part of me was very curious. I guess you can take away some of my points as a responsible adult. Nah, you were off duty at that point, and it's natural to be curious. Never lose your curiosity, I say. Your curiosity led you to the acquisition of knowledge, and that's a powerful thing, Trix assured her. If I may ask, what exactly are you, Trix? Miss Bustier asked. He smiled at her. I'm a Kwami. You see... Hold on, Alya interrupted. Sorry, Trix, but we don't have the time to get into all of that right now. But, Miss Bustier, if you knew, why haven't you said anything until now? Why haven't you told our parents? I didn't say anything because I didn't want to add any unnecessary stress. You all have enough going on as it is. And as for why I didn't tell your parents, well, you kids aren't the only ones who like to watch superhero movies. I know how dangerous it can be for multiple people to know a superhero's secret identity. As much as I want to keep you all safe, I don't want to sabotage you with my good intentions. I see. Well, Alya sighed. Thanks for that. There was a silence between them as Trix waited for the outcome to all of this. So, what now? Alya asked. Now, I'm in a bit of a sticky situation, Miss Bustier explained. I absolutely have to punish you because you slapped Chloe. I'm not letting you out of that, and neither will Mr. Damocles. But I don't want to do anything to jeopardize you and your friend's ability to save Paris. So, I won't tell your parents. Alya's eyes lit up as a hopeful smile ran across her face. But I think the best I can do is assign you extra homework for a full month, give you detention for both of your school breaks, and have you clean up the classroom at the end of the day, without the help of your friends. That's fair, Alya agreed with negative enthusiasm. It's okay, Alya. I'll help you with your homework, Trix whispered so that Miss Bustier couldn't hear. Alya weakly smiled at him. And don't worry, if Hawkmoth attacks, of course I'll let you go to handle it, the teacher added. She then put on a more intimidating aura. But if I find out that you left your punishment to just go and hang out with your friends, I'll triple your workload. Understood? Both Alya and Trix's bodies went rigid as they stood at attention. Yes, ma'am! After giving them both a good scare, Miss Bustier busted out in a giggle. A real superhero and a cute tiny creature. How exciting! I'll make sure to help you all in any way I can. She beamed cheerfully. Oh, and your secret is safe with me. Trix and Alya looked at each other. You have an interesting teacher. Yeah, I do, Alya concurred. I like her, Trix announced with glee. For the first time in what felt like hours, Alya smiled as well. Same. Maybe this won't be so bad after all, Alya thought to herself. Let's look on the bright side. Now it won't be so hard coming up with an excuse to leave class if we ever need to in order to deal with Hawkmoth. In fact, superheroes in the comics wish they had this perk. I think we lucked out. Searching her thoughts, Miss Bustier added, So, out of curiosity, am I allowed to know which of your friends is Cat Noir? Alya shook her head. Sorry, Miss Bustier. The less you know, the better. If you ever happen to get akumatized, it's best that you have as little information as possible. I hope you understand. I do. Sorry for prying. No, I get it. I am super excited that superheroes exist and that I get to be one of them. I'm so involved with history in the making. This will be such an excellent story to tell one day. But for now, we have to keep our cool, Alya told her. Speaking of which, please do your best to keep your own cool and not get so upset that Hawkmoth sends an Akuma your way. Yeah? Bustier gave her a cheeky look. Like how you kept your cool with Chloe today? Alya blushed when reality was thrown in her face. In my defense, I knew that Hawkmoth had already attacked today and lost. He was probably off licking his wounds or something, too busy to even notice that we were all upset. She then sighed. But yeah, you're right. I shouldn't have let Chloe affect me like that. Placing a sympathetic hand on the girl's shoulder, Bustier asked, Is there any possibility at all of you two amending your friendship? Or at least being on more neutral terms? I know that's your goal for us, but I just don't know, Alya replied. Well, just know that I'm on your side, as well as hers. I'm rooting for you, for all of you. I'm here to support all of my students, even the supernatural ones. She winked at the girl. And I'll always be here to chat. Thanks, Miss Bustier. Meanwhile, Chloe sat by herself next to Marinette's locker, waiting for some authority figure to come and enforce the punishment with the appropriate cleaning supplies. She won't be allowed back to class for the next few weeks, and she couldn't go home yet, so all she could do was wait and reflect. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw movement. Turning her head to see what it was, there stood Adrien. Hey, Chloe. She then turned away to avoid his kind eyes. Let me guess. You hate me now, don't you? I could never hate you, Chloe. Do you hate me? Don't be ridiculous, she said with an attitude. but I am still mad at you.
Yeah, I'm a bit peeved at you too, he admitted. You did and said some messed up things. Bringing her legs into herself and hugging them, she buried her face into her thighs. But I'm sure you got told off enough by this point. You got in trouble, didn't you? She didn't respond. What's the punishment? He asked. Without saying a word, she pointed up at Marinette's vandalized locker. Geez, you did that too? You have to clean it, don't you? Makes sense. Chloe gave an exasperated sigh as she brought her head up.
It's not the only thing I have to clean up, and I'm also suspended for the next 2 weeks. Too bad. You all have to go for so long without my glorious presence. What a true bummer this place will be without my radiance. While her words were indeed confident, there was a secret hint of desperation in her tone. Why are you here, Adrikins? Shouldn't you be checking in on dear sweet Marinette?
Marinette is fine. A little messy, but fine. I wanted to make sure that you were okay.
After the fact,
Chloe uttered through her teeth. Here, let me see your cheek. And before Chloe could protest, Adrian got down to her level and gingerly put an ice pack on the wounded side of her face, instantly sending a shocking chill throughout her body. Chloe winced from the cold and pain.
Hey, Adrian!
I also brought some painkillers from the nurse's office and a bottle of water if you need them, he said with concern in his tone. Realizing how insistent he was, Chloe resigned from trying to make him back off. Calming down, she remembered that Adrian immediately defended her after Alya's attack. He could have easily been on Alya's and Marinette's side, but he chose her. For once, he chose her over them. And even now, he was taking time out for her. Chloe leaned into his hand and smiled contently. Adrian returned the smile. The ice pack may have been cold, but she felt warm inside. And as for now, this was enough. And as for now, that's all there is. There isn't any more.